In 1943, German engineers stumbled upon what they thought was a joke, a flimsy, captured American vehicle. At first glance, it looked crude and unimpressive, a mere curiosity next to Germany's finely engineered war machines. But what they uncovered inside would predict the downfall of the entire Third Reich. This is the story of that vehicle, the Jeep, and how its simplicity would become a secret weapon of industrial war. January 12, 1943. The German Army's top-secret proving grounds at Kummersdorf lie silent, wrapped in a blanket of fresh snow. The stillness feels almost haunting, a quiet before a storm yet to come. Cold air presses against frost-covered trees, and frozen earth crunches beneath cautious footsteps. Here, away from the front lines, something unusual is stirring, an unassuming vehicle that will soon shake the very core of wartime beliefs. The vast expanse of this secluded testing ground sets the stage for a revelation that not only challenges German engineering pride, but foretells a turning point in the war itself. Inside a sterile, quiet warehouse, tension hung in the air. Around a single object, a team of elite engineers from the Willys-Overland, the German Army Weapons Agency, gathered with focused eyes and sharpened minds. This was no ordinary machine. It was a captured relic of an enemy they barely understood. The engineers moved with purpose, whispering technical jargon, their hands itching to dissect this enigmatic vehicle. Despite the silence, the weight of the moment was palpable. Each one knew that within this crude American artifact lay answers that could shift the tides of war. They were about to confront a challenge to everything they believed about engineering and about the enemy. The vehicle before them was small, almost laughably modest. It bore the scars of battle and the dust of countless miles, yet it looked crude, simple, even. This wasn't the sleek, roaring beast of engineering mastery Germany took pride in. No. Next to the powerful, sophisticated war machines they produced, the American Jeep looked more like a makeshift farm cart than a weapon of war. At first glance, it seemed unimpressive, a mere joke in steel, unworthy of serious attention. But that was about to change. Ernst Schneider, a lead mechanical engineer, moves deliberately around the captured Jeep, his gloved hand tracing the thin, stamped steel of its body. The metal feels fragile beneath his touch, barely more than a sheet folded into shape. To his eyes, it looks primitive, almost laughably simple compared to the polished, complex machines German engineers proudly build. Yet, even in its humble form, there's a quiet resilience here that demands closer inspection. Schneider senses this isn't just a crude vehicle, it is the key to understanding something much bigger. He leans in, eyes fixed on the modest four-cylinder engine nestled under the hood. It's nothing like the intricate power plants German engineers pride themselves on. Instead, it's rugged and unrefined, more reminiscent of a trusty farm tractor than a sophisticated piece of military hardware. This simplicity feels almost defiant, challenging everything the German engineers believe about what a war machine should be. The visiting Daimler-Benz engineers, men who lived and breathed precision, couldn't help but scoff softly. To them, this captured American Jeep was nothing more than a crude joke, simple, rough around the edges, and entirely beneath their standards of engineering excellence. They saw it as a clumsy, amateurish machine, a stark contrast to Germany's finely crafted masterpieces. Their chuckles weren't just about the vehicle. It was about the idea that such a basic contraption could even be considered for serious military use. To them, this was proof of a country that didn't understand the high art of warfare, a product of quantity over quality, and hardly a threat to the Reich's technological pride. To the visiting German engineers, this Jeep was little more than a curiosity, a crude machine from what they disparagingly called a nation of shopkeepers. They saw a country that lacked the finesse and artistry required for true warfare, dismissing the vehicle as simplistic and unworthy of serious consideration. Their laughter was not just about the Jeep's design, but about their deep-rooted belief that only complex, finely crafted machines could dominate the battlefield. It was a judgment steeped in pride and prejudice, blind to the possibility that beneath this humble exterior lay a revolutionary approach to war. But Schneider isn't laughing. He sees beyond the surface. While his colleagues mock the Jeep's crude appearance, he knows this simple vehicle is unlike anything they've faced before. It's not just a quirky novelty, it's being produced in staggering numbers. Factories across America are churning out thousands every week, flooding the battlefields with these rugged, reliable machines. This isn't a joke, it's a warning. The Jeep's power doesn't lie in complexity or craftsmanship, it lies in sheer volume, in relentless availability. And that realization will soon shake the very foundations of German military pride. By early 1943, over 100,000 Jeeps were already in action across numerous battlefields, with new factories rapidly joining the effort each month. This simple, unassuming vehicle, crude by German standards, was everywhere. And that relentless presence posed a haunting question for the German High Command. How could this seemingly primitive machine be so incredibly effective on the modern battlefield? It wasn't just a matter of engineering, it was a mystery, challenging everything they thought they knew about war, power, and production. Schneider's mission was clear: uncover the secret behind the Jeep's unexpected effectiveness. What began as a simple inspection quickly transformed into a full-scale vehicle autopsy. Every nut, bolt, and component would be scrutinized with cold, mechanical precision. This wasn't a casual glance. It was a deep dive into the engineering soul of a machine that German experts had dismissed as rudimentary. As Schneider prepared to take it apart, he knew this task could reveal unspoken truths about the war itself, truths hidden beneath the Jeep's plain exterior. The stakes were high. This autopsy was more than just technical. It was a search for answers that might reshape the future of warfare. In 1943, the core of German engineering pride lay in a single, unshakable belief: complexity was superiority. To them, intricate designs and meticulous craftsmanship were the true marks of genius. Every bolt, every gear, every machine wasn't just a tool. It was a testament to the nation's intellect and power. This mindset shaped everything from the elegant curves of a Porsche Kübelwagen to the awe-inspiring might of a Tiger tank. For these engineers, the idea that something simple could outperform their masterpieces was almost unthinkable. Understanding this philosophy is key to grasping how they underestimated the humble Jeep, setting the stage for a revelation that would shake the Third Reich to its core. In 1943, Germany's engineering pride was embodied in machines like the Kübelwagen, designed by Ferdinand Porsche. This wasn't just any vehicle, it was a masterpiece of clever engineering. Its air-cooled engine meant fewer parts to fail in harsh conditions, while the advanced suspension offered superior handling over rugged terrain. The Kübelwagen reflected everything Germany valued: precision, complexity, and superior craftsmanship. But, as Schneider would soon discover, this brilliance came at a cost. It required highly skilled labor and hundreds of man-hours to build. In a war accelerating beyond the battlefield, this perfection could become a deadly weakness. But the Kübelwagen was a different story. Designed by the legendary Ferdinand Porsche, it was a marvel of engineering: an air-cooled engine, advanced suspension, and precision machining that made it a masterpiece of German automotive technology. Yet, this brilliance came at a cost. Each one demanded highly skilled labor and hundreds of man-hours to build. Unlike the American Jeep, built for mass production and ease, the Kübelwagen was a luxury of craftsmanship in a war that increasingly needed speed and quantity above all. Its very sophistication foreshadowed the growing challenge. Germany faced a battle not just on the front lines, but in the factories. The Tiger tank was the embodiment of German engineering pride, a true battlefield predator that outclassed almost every enemy vehicle it faced. It represented the core belief held by German command that superior quality and advanced technology would always outweigh sheer numbers. With its thick armor and powerful gun, the Tiger struck fear into the hearts of Allied troops. But this perfection came at a cost. Each tank took months to build and demanded expert crews and meticulous maintenance. It was a masterpiece of war, yes, but also a symbol of inflexibility in a conflict that would soon favor relentless production over precision. In those early years of the war, that German belief in complexity and superiority seemed to be holding strong. Blitzkrieg, the lightning war, had overwhelmed Europe's largest armies with sheer speed and precision. Their soldiers were disciplined, their tanks advanced, their tactics ruthless. It felt like a perfect formula quality machines led by expert troops crushing everything in their path. Yet, beneath this early success, lurked a question that would soon unravel their confidence. How long could this winning streak last against an enemy whose strength wasn't just in skill or technology, but in staggering numbers? As Schneider began his meticulous examination, he harbored the same expectation as his peers. The American Jeep was nothing more than a crude, makeshift contraption, a symbol of a mass-market culture that simply didn't grasp the fine art of warfare. To them, its simplicity was synonymous with ignorance, a sign that it couldn't possibly compete with Germany's sophisticated engineering marvels. Schneider shared this bias. At first he assumed the Jeep would expose glaring shortcuts and poor craftsmanship, but he was about to discover that what appeared primitive on the surface concealed a profoundly different and deeply effective vision of war, one that prioritized adaptability, production speed, and sheer numbers over flawless perfection. Little did he know, this initial assumption was about to shatter completely. Ignoring the skeptical glances and quiet smirks of his colleagues, Schneider dives in with unwavering focus. He knows this isn't about showing off German engineering brilliance, it's about unraveling a mystery at the heart of the Allies' success. So he starts at the very core, the engine. Every bolt, every piston, every bolt is methodically examined. This small, unassuming power plant may look simple, but Schneider senses its hiding secrets. The precision of his measurements, the meticulous disassembly. Each action a deliberate step toward decoding why this primitive machine keeps outperforming expectations on the battlefield. Schneider and his team set to work meticulously, removing each part of the Jeep's engine piece by piece. They spread everything out on a stark white canvas, arranging the small, lightweight components with care. Every bolt, every gear, every spring lay exposed. This careful layout wasn't just about inspection, it was a methodical autopsy, aiming to uncover the secrets hidden inside this unassuming machine. The quiet of the warehouse was tangible, broken only by the soft clinks and quiet murmurs as the team methodically cataloged every element. This was the beginning of revealing what made this simple power plant so bafflingly effective. Schneider carefully measures each part of the engine with his calipers, his eyes sharpening as the first clue surfaces. This engine block isn't a complex assembly of pieces. It's a single, simple iron casting. Unlike the finely machined, multi-part German designs, this block was made to be poured in one piece fast, efficient, and cheap to produce. It's a clear departure from the precision engineering valued in Germany. This simplicity isn't a flaw, it's a feature, a sign of something fundamentally different. And it immediately sets Schneider on a path to understanding that what he's holding might be the key to America's industrial advantage. Unlike their German cousins, this engine was designed for simplicity and mass production. It used fewer main bearings, which meant fewer moving parts to wear down or break. And it completely skipped the intricate hand-fitted cylinder sleeves that the Germans painstakingly machined for precision. Instead, this block was cast as a single piece, a rough and ready, no-frills approach that saved time and resources. It wasn't some delicate masterpiece. It was built to be rugged and replaceable, made to keep running even when the conditions were less than perfect. Schneider patiently counts the fasteners, sorting them into neat, orderly piles. To his surprise, the entire engine is held together with just 7 different bolt sizes, remarkably few compared to German standards. This simple fact hints at a radical departure from their usual complexity. It's not just simplicity, it's intentional design for ease of assembly and maintenance. Every component has been streamlined, reducing the need for countless specialized parts and tools. This isn't carelessness or lack of skill. It's an industrial philosophy that values speed, efficiency, and serviceability over intricate perfection. Compared to the intricate craftsmanship of German engines like the one in the Kübelwagen, which required over 30 different bolt sizes, this American Jeep engine was wildly different. It used just 7. This wasn't merely simple, it was a radical simplification. Every part was designed to be easy to produce and maintain, cutting down on manufacturing time and complexity. While German engineers prided themselves on precision and refinement, the Jeep embodied a design philosophy focused on mass production and battlefield reliability. This contrast was more than technical. It was a fundamental difference in how each side approached war itself. Even the oil filter is a revelation. Unlike those intricate, reusable filters common in German vehicles, this one is a simple disposable canister. It's designed so anyone, farmhands included, can swap it out quickly, even in muddy, chaotic conditions, using just a single wrench. No need for specialized tools or skilled mechanics. This tiny detail speaks volumes about a broader philosophy. Build for speed and ease of maintenance, not perfection. It's rugged practicality crafted for the harshest realities of war, where downtime can mean death. This oil filter isn't just a part. It's a symbol of a revolutionary approach to making and keeping machines running. The carburetor might look simple, basic, even, but that's where its true genius lies. Anyone, no matter their skill level, could take it apart, clean it, and put it back together. No fancy tools required, no complicated tuning or adjustments. It was designed with the everyday soldier or mechanic in mind, quick, easy fixes right there in the field, even under the worst conditions. This wasn't about fine craftsmanship or perfection. It was about keeping the Jeep running no matter what. Next, the electrical system. It's almost comically straightforward. A standard 6-volt battery powers the whole setup, nothing fancy. The generator is simple and reliable. And the wiring? Color-coded and easy to follow, with a diagram glued right under the hood, designed so any mechanic, regardless of experience, could fix it quickly. No need for specialized tools or complicated schematics. Every part screams practicality over perfection. This wasn't about elegance. It was built to get the job done, fast and often in the field. This Jeep wasn't crafted for aesthetics or flawless engineering. Instead, it was designed with one goal: quick, straightforward repairs. Mechanics didn't need special training or fancy tools. If something broke, they could fix it fast out in the field under harsh conditions. Every component was made for durability and simplicity, prioritizing function over finesse. It wasn't about perfection, it was about getting the job done and keeping these humble machines running no matter what. This philosophy was radically different from the painstaking complexity the German engineers revered. The transmission and transfer case tell the same story as the rest of the Jeep. No frills, no luxury, just raw strength. The gears aren't finely ground for smooth, silent shifts. Instead, they're roughly cut, chunky, massive, built like a tank. They may clunk and howl, but they won't give out when the dirt gets deep or the road ends. It's a design built not for perfection, but for relentless durability. Every piece screams rugged, reliable, easily fixed. This isn't about elegance. It's about survival in the toughest, messiest battlefields imaginable. The Jeep doesn't apologize for being crude. It wears it as armor. The gears inside the transmission and transfer case aren't polished for silence. Instead, they're roughly cut, but built like tanks. They clang and grind loudly, but that noise is a small price to pay for their incredible strength. Every part is designed to endure brutal conditions. These components won't give out easily. The focus is clear. Prioritize durability over smoothness or refinement. This machine isn't about finesse or elegance. It's about surviving harsh use without breaking down. It's a brute force approach, designed to keep going when other, more delicate systems would fail. By the third day, the Daimler-Benz engineers had lost all interest. Their chuckles faded into silence as they saw only rough, crude manufacturing and what they deemed inferior design choices. Disappointed and dismissive, they packed their bags and left the warehouse, convinced that this simple American Jeep was no real threat. To them, it was a poorly made machine, far beneath the standards of German engineering excellence. But little did they know, their departure marked a turning point. The realization that they overlooked a revolutionary approach to warfare hidden behind the Jeep's humble facade. The Daimler-Benz engineers returned to Berlin, their confidence in German superiority not just intact, but even strengthened. They dismissed the captured American Jeep as a simple curiosity, incapable of posing any real threat. To them, this crude machine is nothing more than a symbol of a nation that lacks the finesse and brilliance of German engineering. Their report back to the High Command echoes this belief. The Jeep is inferior, an embarrassment rather than a challenge. Little do they realize that this very dismissal will blind them to the looming industrial force they have underestimated, a force that will soon reshape the course of the war. But Schneider stays behind. While his colleagues scoff and leave, he immerses himself deeper, filling notebook after notebook with sketches, measurements, and detailed calculations. Slowly, a chilling truth begins to emerge, a realization that this American Jeep isn't a sign of incompetence, but a radical shift in how war is fought. The simplicity he once saw as crude now reveals itself as a powerful, almost terrifying strategy. This isn't just a vehicle, it's the embodiment of a new industrial philosophy, one that could change the fate of the war forever. Schneider realizes something profound. This isn't about faulty engineering or American incompetence. No, what he's uncovering is a whole different way of thinking about war. A philosophy built not on crafting the perfect machine, but on mass production, simplicity, and relentless replacement. This new approach uses vast industrial power as a weapon itself, churning out enough vehicles to drown any enemy. It's a cold, pragmatic vision of warfare that shakes him deeply. This isn't just a technical curiosity, it's a glimpse into a strategy that could, and ultimately would, reshape the entire conflict. What appeared to be a basic, unrefined machine wasn't a mistake or an oversight. It was a deliberate choice, a radical break from traditional military thinking. This Jeep's simplicity was its greatest strength. Fewer parts meant fewer failures. Easy repairs meant it could keep moving when others stalled. It was built not for elegance or precision, but for relentless, rugged endurance. In its bare-bones design lay a hidden weapon that no complex engineering marvel could match, a weapon fueled by mass production and sheer numbers, turning what seemed like a joke into a devastating advantage. Ernst Schneider's eyes scanned through the intelligence files on American automotive production, and what he sees is almost unimaginable. The numbers are staggering, huge, like nothing Germany has ever come close to. Factories churning out thousands of vehicles daily, each one simple, sturdy, and designed for mass production. This isn't just industry, it's an unstoppable machine, an industrial juggernaut, powered by sheer scale and speed, overwhelming in its capacity to replace losses and flood battlefields with reliable equipment. The magnitude of American output hits him hard. These aren't just numbers on paper, but a glimpse into a war-waging philosophy that Germany could scarcely match. The depth of America's material wealth now becomes terrifyingly clear. Multiple factories, Ford, Willys-Overland, were churning out identical Jeeps, all built to a single, standardized design. This wasn't just production, it was an industrial juggernaut in motion. The scale was staggering. What kind of power did this level of manufacturing truly unleash? How could a simple, rugged vehicle produced in such vast numbers reshape the battlefield? The answer lay not in individual perfection, but in overwhelming quantity, an unstoppable tide of mobility, ready to roll anywhere, anytime. This was America's secret weapon, relentless mass production that turned war into a battle of numbers, not just machines. By 1943, the American industrial machine was a relentless juggernaut, cranking out over 800 Jeeps every single day. This wasn't just production, it was a flood, a tidal wave of vehicles flooding the front lines. Each Jeep was simple, sturdy, and easy to maintain. While Germany agonized over engineering perfection, America focused on something far more powerful: sheer numbers. This endless stream of Jeeps symbolized a new kind of warfare, one where quantity could overwhelm quality. The question haunting German engineers was no longer about who built the better machine, but who could build more, faster, and keep them rolling. Schneider crunches the numbers fast. In a whole year, Germany's factories, strained and stretched thin, pump out just 14,000 light vehicles of all kinds. That's a stark contrast to the relentless American production grinding forward. The American war machine is churning out Jeeps by the hundreds, while Germany struggles to keep pace with even a fraction of that output. This isn't just a gap, it's a yawning chasm, one that threatens to swallow German armies whole. Schneider realizes this raw production disparity is more than just a statistic. It's a looming strategic disaster waiting to unfold. He turns his gaze back to the disassembled Jeep, seeing it anew. The body panels, stamped from sheet metal like precise cookie cutters, weren't crafted by master artisans. They were punched out swiftly by semi-skilled hands. This wasn't fancy engineering, it was designed for mass production. Everywhere he looked, simplicity reigned. Parts made to be easily manufactured, assembled, and repaired without specialized skills. The vehicle was less a masterpiece and more a factory's promise, built to flood the front lines in overwhelming numbers, each unit a small but reliable piece of a colossal machine. He studies the frame closely, simple steel channels, nothing fancy, no intricate tubular designs, or precisely calculated stress points like the Germans pride themselves on. It's the kind of construction any basic welder could handle, crafted for speed and ease, not elegance or engineering art. This frame isn't about perfection, it's about getting the job done quickly and reliably, a clear sign that this vehicle was built for mass production and constant use, not just show. Even the wheels follow this clever principle: crude, but standardized. They weren't fancy or finely tuned. They were made to be mass-produced, interchangeable parts rolling seamlessly across factories. These wheels could fit not just the Jeep, but trailers and other vehicles too, cutting down complexity across the entire logistics chain. This meant repairs and replacements happened fast and easily, even in muddy fields or under enemy fire. Such simplicity ensured the Jeep stayed moving, no matter where the war took it, turning what seemed like rough edges into a powerful strategic advantage. This wasn't a vehicle designed by artists or engineers seeking perfection. It was crafted by factory managers who prioritized one thing above all: efficiency. Every curve, every joint, every bolt was chosen not for elegance, but for speed of production and ease of assembly. It was about putting machines on the road quickly, using parts that any worker could handle, even under harsh conditions. This was industrial design stripped down to its bare essentials: rough, ready, and relentlessly practical. In that simplicity lay its real power, a blunt honesty that clashed sharply with Germany's obsession with technical excellence. The Jeep wasn't just a vehicle, it was a symbol of a new kind of war, one won by numbers, not nuance. Every single part of the Jeep, the bolts, the welds, even the smallest components, was designed with one goal in mind: efficiency in production and repair. This wasn't about engineering masterpieces or flawless machines. It was about making a vehicle that could be built quickly, fixed easily, and kept running no matter the conditions. Instead of chasing perfection, the design choices prioritized simplicity and interchangeability. That meant anyone, anywhere, with basic tools and skills, could keep these Jeeps on the move. It was industrial pragmatism at its finest, a machine crafted for the relentless demands of a total war where speed and volume mattered far more than polish or elegance. On the fifth day, Schneider realizes that focusing solely on the Jeep's mechanics won't tell the whole story. He needs to grasp the broader picture, the strategic force behind this machine's success. So he takes a bold step and requests a meeting with someone who's witnessed this new kind of war firsthand. This isn't an engineer or a technician, but a seasoned commander, someone who understands how these vehicles change the battlefield. Schneider's search for answers is about to move beyond bolts and gears and into the harsh realities of a war fueled by production lines and endless supply. With urgency in his fingers, Schneider sends a priority cable, an unmistakable signal that this is no ordinary request. He demands an audience with General Major Wilhelm von Thoma, a seasoned veteran who had just returned from the brutal deserts of North Africa. This meeting isn't just protocol, it's the tipping point where engineering meets battlefield reality. Schneider knows von Thoma's first-hand experience could unlock answers beyond blueprints and bolts, revealing the strategic truth behind the Jeep's quiet menace. General Major Wilhelm von Thoma was no stranger to hardship just back from North African captivity. He was a battle-hardened panzer commander who had faced the harsh realities of desert warfare firsthand. Unlike Schneider and his engineers, von Thoma wasn't focused on technical details. He understood war through the grit of combat and the demands of survival on a vast, unforgiving battlefield. His return brought a valuable perspective, one grounded in the brutal logistics of keeping an army moving. And now, standing inside the cold, quiet halls of Kummersdorf, von Thoma was about to shed light on the true power behind that simple, unassuming Jeep. On January 19th, General Major Wilhelm von Thoma arrived at Kummersdorf. Weathered and pragmatic, he wasted no time with technical debates. As a seasoned panzer commander recently captured in North Africa, von Thoma had faced the very realities Schneider was uncovering. His presence brought a stark, grounded perspective to the sterile warehouse. Here was a man who had seen the battlefield up close, who understood the brutal demands of war beyond engineering blueprints. There was no room for arrogance, only the blunt truth looming in the cold, snowy silence of Kummersdorf. Schneider methodically lays out his findings, unveiling a design philosophy starkly different from Germany's. The Jeep's engine is stripped down to essential, simplified, standardized parts crafted for speed of production and ease of repair, not intricate perfection. Each component, from bolts to wiring, fits a purpose, to be assembled in massive quantities by semi-skilled hands. This isn't just engineering, it's a strategic weapon forged in the fires of industrial might. Schneider's sketches and data form a damning portrait, one that challenges everything his colleagues believed about quality, complexity, and superiority in war machines. Von Thoma nodded thoughtfully. He'd seen these Jeeps everywhere in the harsh desert landscape, rugged beasts that never seemed to falter. British officers swore by them, praising their reliability when other vehicles broke down under the punishing conditions. It wasn't just about the Jeep's mechanical simplicity, it was about trust, the assurance that these vehicles would keep going when everything else failed. To von Thoma, they were living proof that this simple machine was far more than a crude novelty. It was a crucial tool in the Allies' relentless push across North Africa. Von Thoma paints a vivid picture of the Allied supply lines stretching across the North African desert. It wasn't just the Jeeps, they were part of an endless river of trucks, fuel, ammunition, and spare parts flowing ceaselessly to the front. This massive logistical network fueled a war machine like no other, keeping the Allies running strong against all odds. For every broken vehicle, there was a ready replacement waiting just behind the lines. The sheer scale was staggering, a flood of resources that German forces could scarcely match or even comprehend. This wasn't just warfare, it was industrial might in motion, unstoppable and relentless. He describes a scale of material wealth the Germans could barely comprehend, a torrent of equipment that never seemed to stop. Endless convoys of trucks rolled across deserts and plains alike, fueling the Allied war machine with a relentless supply of fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and vehicles. This wasn't just about superior weapons. It was about an overwhelming flood of resources, an industrial onslaught the German forces could not match. The sheer volume of American production meant that no matter how many vehicles broke down or were destroyed, replacements were always waiting just around the corner. To the Germans, it was like fighting a tide that only grew stronger with every wave. The general looked Schneider in the eye, his tone heavy with hard truth. Our Kübelwagen might be a better vehicle on paper, technically superior in every way. But for every one of ours that rolls onto the battlefield, their forces have 50 of theirs. This wasn't just about machines. It was about the sheer scale of production. The Americans weren't just building vehicles, they were flooding the war zone, overwhelming German precision with relentless numbers. In this brutal arithmetic, quantity wasn't just a statistic. It was a weapon turning the tide against German engineering pride. And theirs, von Thoma adds, with a grim certainty, always seemed to be running. This simple line cuts through all the technical jargon and engineering pride, revealing a chilling truth. It's not about having the fanciest machine, or the most complex design. It's about reliability and, above all, relentless availability. While German vehicles often sat broken in the field, waiting for hours or days for repairs, the Allies could simply replace theirs without missing a beat. This was a war not just of skill or courage, it was a war of relentless production, an industrial tidal wave that Germany was desperately struggling to stem. Von Thoma's words struck like a thunderclap. When one of our vehicles breaks down, our men spend hours, sometimes days, trying to fix it because replacements don't exist. In stark contrast, the enemy simply swapped out a broken Jeep for a fresh one and kept moving. This wasn't just a technical issue, it was a strategic nightmare. Their complex, finely crafted machines demanded expert repairs and scarce parts. Meanwhile, the Americans flooded the battlefield with simple, reliable vehicles that anyone could maintain or replace instantly. For von Thoma, this brutal reality crystallized the growing gulf between German pride in quality and the harsh arithmetic of war. Their perfection was a luxury the war could no longer afford. When one of their Jeeps breaks, von Thoma said flatly, "They just get a new one." It was a simple statement, yet it cut deep. Unlike the Germans, who painstakingly repaired each damaged vehicle, often struggling with scarce parts and limited capacity, the Americans simply replaced theirs. This fundamental difference wasn't about superior engineering or combat tactics, it was about industrial might and a mindset built on relentless production and replacement. Every broken Jeep didn't spell disaster, it was just another moment absorbed by an endless flow of machines. This was the harsh truth. While German soldiers fought with precision-made machines, their allies relied on sheer numbers, overwhelming durability, and an industrial machine that never stopped turning. The conversation clarifies everything for Schneider. Suddenly, his meticulous technical analysis connects to a horrifying strategic reality far beyond gears and bolts. This wasn't just about one vehicle's design, it was a reflection of an entire war machine's soul. The simple Jeep, with its rugged efficiency and mass production, embodied a vast industrial power Germany could neither match nor fully comprehend. Schneider saw the stark contrast, German precision versus American quantity. And with that realization came a chilling truth. This was not just a battle of equipment, but a war of scale, resources, and relentless replacement. The implications were devastating. German industry was built for short, glorious wars in Europe, relying heavily on master mechanics to keep the finely crafted machines running. But America was gearing up for something entirely different.
That's it.
A long, grinding global war of attrition. Their approach wasn't about perfection or fragile engineering. It was about relentless output, easy repairs, and sheer numbers. They prepared to outproduce and outlast, flooding battlefields with countless vehicles and supplies. This wasn't just a difference in machinery, it was a fundamental shift in how war would be fought and won. This was a war unlike any other fought not just on battlefields, but in factories and assembly lines. It was a conflict defined by sheer numbers, where disposable equipment and minimally trained soldiers became the backbone of an unstoppable war machine. The United States didn't just rely on elite units or flawless machines, they embraced a relentless cycle of replacement. When something broke, it was quicker and easier to build a new one than to repair the old. This strategy wasn't glamorous, but it was devastatingly effective, a war of attrition powered by industrial might rather than battlefield brilliance. Von Thoma's warning hit like a thunderclap. Germany was already pushing every factory to its limits, running flat out with no room to spare. But even at maximum capacity, it wasn't close to enough. The old belief quality over quantity wasn't just flawed, it was deadly. In his eyes, clinging to intricate perfection while the enemy churned out hundreds of good-enough vehicles, spelled disaster. The Germans couldn't keep up. They faced a brutal truth. The mass-produced waves of Allied equipment weren't just overwhelming, they were insurmountable. And time was running out. After that crucial meeting, Schneider's mind raced. He dove headfirst into pre-war intelligence, uncovering reports the German High Command had ignored or dismissed. Detailed assessments of American industrial power lay hidden massive factories, sprawling complexes like Ford's River Rouge, factories so vast they rivaled entire cities. He read about Willow Run, the mammoth bomber plant, designed to crank out a B-24 every hour. The scale was staggering. These weren't just machines. They were symbols of a war machine fueled by relentless production. Schneider saw the ominous truth. America wasn't just making weapons, they were building an unstoppable engine of war. The reports describe industrial behemoths like Ford's River Rouge complex, a sprawling factory so vast and populous it outshines entire German cities. This wasn't just a plant. It was a fortress of mass production, where thousands of workers churned out vehicles and engines with relentless precision. Here, assembly lines stretched for miles, moving parts at a speed and scale that Germany's carefully crafted workshops could never match. It was an ecosystem designed for one purpose: to overwhelm the enemy not with perfection, but with sheer, unstoppable quantity. This revelation was more than a number. It was a glimpse into the industrial heart of America's war machine, a machine Germany was hopelessly unprepared to face. At Willow Run, the scale is staggering. This is no ordinary factory. It's the largest building under one roof in the world, sprawling like an industrial cathedral dedicated to war production. Inside, an assembly line moves with relentless precision, churning out a B-24 Liberator bomber every 63 minutes. Imagine that a massive, complex aircraft rolling off the line faster than most planes can even taxi. This pace wasn't about perfection. It was about overwhelming the enemy with sheer volume. Here, every minute mattered, every bomber counted. It was a bold statement. America's industrial might was not just vast, it was unstoppable. American aircraft production for 1,943 wasn't just impressive, it was staggering. The projections revealed a shocking reality. The United States was set to produce more than double all the aircraft Germany had managed to build in the entire previous year. That wasn't just a number. It was a forecast of overwhelming industrial might. While Germany struggled with painstaking craftsmanship, America's factories churned out planes at an unprecedented pace. This tidal wave of production signaled a shift in the very nature of the conflict, one where quantity began to overshadow the traditional obsession with quality and precision. The future of the war was about to be rewritten, and Germany was dangerously behind. American shipyards were no ordinary factories, they were marvels of speed and scale. They churned out Liberty cargo ships in mere weeks, some astonishingly in less than 5 days. In just 1 year, these shipyards launched more tonnage than Germany's entire merchant marine fleet. This industrial torrent wasn't just production. It was a tidal wave that Germany's navy could not match, an overwhelming force of raw material and logistics shaping the true battlefield of the war. The M4 Sherman tank wasn't a technical marvel compared to Germany's Panther or Tiger tanks. In fact, by many measures, it was decidedly inferior. Yet the numbers told a harsh truth. For every single Tiger built by Germany, America produced over 100 Shermans. This staggering disparity wasn't just about tanks, it was a brutal testament to America's overwhelming industrial capacity. The Allies flooded the battlefield with quantity, swamping the German forces in a relentless wave of machinery. It was an unyielding strategy. Throw enough good enough tanks into the fray to outlast and outmatch the quality-focused but limited German arsenal. The stark truth hit like a thunderclap. Germany was entering a war armed with precision-engineered rifles, masterpieces crafted with care and perfection. Yet on the other side stood a relentless industrial chainsaw, a symbol of overwhelming mass production. This wasn't just a clash of weapons, it was a battle of philosophies. While the Germans focused on flawless quality, the Americans wielded raw, staggering quantity, flooding every battlefield with endless reinforcements. The gulf between them wasn't just technological, it was strategic. Germany's finely honed machines, powerful as they were, couldn't withstand the sheer scale and speed of the American war machine's output. This grim reality foreshadowed the slow but inevitable unraveling of the Third Reich. America's strategy wasn't about clever maneuvers or tactical brilliance. It was simpler and far more relentless. They banked on overwhelming material superiority. Their secret weapon was the sheer volume of resources they could pour into the fight. When something broke or got lost, it was replaced almost instantly. Battles stopped being about heroics on the field. Instead, they became a matter of math, a relentless equation where numbers dictated victory or defeat. This massive industrial machine didn't just support the war effort, it powered an unstoppable tide sweeping across every battlefield. When a German panzer division was mauled in battle, the recovery was painfully slow. Tanks, scarred and broken, didn't simply get swapped out. They had to be painstakingly repaired or painstakingly replaced, fed through Germany's dwindling production lines at a trickle. Months would pass before a battered division could roll back to the front, its strength halved or worse. Every day lost was a chance squandered. Every broken tank was a glaring reminder of a system strained beyond breaking one. Incapable of matching the relentless flood of Allied vehicles pouring onto the battlefield, fresh and ready to fight. The Battle of Kasserine Pass was a harsh lesson for the American forces. Though they faced defeat on the field, their strength lay beneath the surface in their staggering capacity to recover. Within just 3 weeks, every lost tank, vehicle, and gun was replaced. They tapped into an endless reserve of machinery and resources, an industrial wellspring that never ran dry. This ability to quickly rebound from setbacks wasn't just a military tactic, it was a strategic revolution. While the Germans painstakingly repaired or salvaged their equipment, the Americans simply poured forth replacements, overwhelming their enemies with sheer volume and relentless persistence. This was not a war of brilliance alone, but a war won through unstoppable production and resilience. In February 1943, Schneider delivers his exhaustive 87-page report to the German High Command. It's packed with piercing technical data, relentless production statistics, and a chilling conclusion that cannot be ignored. The stark reality stares them in the face. Germany cannot compete in an industrial war against the United States. The numbers aren't just discouraging, they're a mathematical dead end. This isn't about courage or tactics anymore. It's about factories, assembly lines, and relentless mass production. Yet, despite the undeniable truth laid bare on those pages, the report faces dismissal and denial, buried beneath layers of ideology and pride. The hard facts clash uncomfortably with deeply held beliefs, setting the stage for a fatal blindness that would shape the fate of the Third Reich. Schneider's report hit with brutal clarity. Germany simply couldn't win an industrial war against the United States. It wasn't just a matter of tactics or bravery, it was a mathematical impossibility. The numbers, the factories, the sheer scale of American production created a chasm Germany couldn't bridge. Every precision-engineered German vehicle was outmatched by the flood of good-enough American machines rolling off assembly lines faster than anything the Reich could muster. This wasn't just a technical problem. It was a strategic death sentence, sealed by the raw power of industrial might that Germany's ideals couldn't overcome. The report was received official, detailed, undeniable. Yet instead of sparking change, it vanished beneath layers of bureaucracy and denial. The high command, unwilling to confront the uncomfortable truth, tucked it away, effectively burying the stark reality it laid bare. This strategic silence would prove fatal, a missed warning that Germany's industrial limitations couldn't be overcome by skill or bravery alone. The seeds of defeat were sown not just on the battlefield, but in these moments of ignored insight, where hard data clashed with deep-seated pride and ideology. But the report is brushed aside, labeled defeatist, its cold facts rejected by generals clinging to pride. They insist that German battlefield skill and soldierly spirit will outmatch mere numbers. Their belief in supremacy blinds them to the storm gathering just beyond the horizon, where industrial might and relentless production will soon crush everything they hold dear. Albert Speer, the Reich Minister for Armaments and War Production, wasn't just another bureaucrat. He understood the brutal reality buried in Schneider's report, the stark, unforgiving truth about Germany's industrial paralysis. While others clung to illusion and pride, Speer saw the numbers for what they were, a call to action. This document held the unvarnished proof that the war could no longer be fought on craftsmanship alone. Mass production and efficiency were the keys to survival. Holding that report, Speer realized change wasn't just necessary, it was the difference between defeat and a chance to turn the tide. Albert Speer, known for his pragmatic mindset, recognized the inefficiencies plaguing Germany's war economy. Unlike many who clung to ideology over reality, Speer saw in Schneider's detailed report the hard evidence he needed: a clear, undeniable assessment of their industrial shortcomings. This report didn't just highlight technical flaws, it exposed a deeper, systemic weakness in Germany's war machine. Speer understood that without embracing radical changes, simplifying designs, streamlining production, and adopting mass manufacturing methods akin to the Americans, Germany's chance of victory was slipping away. This was the moment when cold facts met political will, setting the stage for a desperate struggle to bridge a widening gap. In March, Speer summoned Schneider to Berlin, setting the stage for a pivotal moment. Standing before the Reich Minister for Armaments and War Production, Schneider laid out his findings with calm precision, detailing the stark contrast between German engineering pride and American industrial might. Speer had long suspected these truths, but now, confronted with hard data and undeniable evidence, the reality became unavoidable. This was not just a technical report. It was a confirmation of a strategic crisis threatening the very future of the Third Reich. The weight of Schneider's discoveries hung heavy in the room, signaling a crossroads Germany could neither ignore nor easily overcome. Albert Speer saw an opportunity. Armed with Schneider's report, he pushed hard to overhaul Germany's production. He argued for simplifying designs, standardizing parts, and shifting to true assembly line production, just like the Americans had mastered. Speer knew this was the key to turning the tide: mass production over meticulous craftsmanship. But his vision collided headfirst with deep-rooted traditions and stubborn ideology. The German military elite clung to their beliefs in superior quality and precision, refusing to sacrifice excellence for quantity. Speer's plea was clear. If Germany didn't adapt, it would be swallowed by the Allied war machine's relentless output. But he faces a wall of institutional resistance and ideological blindness. Despite the clear evidence and overwhelming data, the entrenched leaders refuse to budge. Their pride in tradition and obsession with technical perfection blind them to the harsh reality. The war demanded speed, volume, and adaptability, not elegance. This stubborn refusal to evolve seals their fate as the clock ticks mercilessly against them. Hitler's reaction was swift and absolute. He rejected Schneider's evidence outright, dismissing the hard data and relentless numbers as irrelevant distractions. To him, the outcome rested solely on German willpower and the unmatched quality of their engineering. Superior craftsmanship, he declared, is the essence of victory. This ideological blind spot sealed Germany's fate. Even faced with undeniable proof of industrial inferiority, Hitler clung to the belief that excellence and spirit alone could overcome quantity. It was a conviction that blinded the Nazi leadership to the true nature of the threat they faced and sealed the destiny of the Third Reich. Hermann Göring, commanding the Luftwaffe, simply scoffs at the American production numbers. To him, they're nothing more than blatant propaganda fabrications too outrageous to be true. He dismisses the staggering scale of their industrial output as a fairy tale, refusing to accept that the raw power of quantity could outmatch German technical superiority. This is the moment when ideology clashes head-on with reality, a stubborn denial that blinds the German high command to a threat growing right before their eyes. Despite the mounting evidence and pressing need for change, the Wehrmacht and Luftwaffe brass dug in their heels. They refused to simplify their advanced weaponry or rethink their strategies. Instead, they demanded better tanks, more powerful, heavily armored, and faster planes. Quality over quantity remained their stubborn mantra. To them, innovation meant pushing the limits of technology, not increasing production numbers. This resistance wasn't just stubbornness, it was a fatal ideological barrier. The machines they craved required precise craftsmanship and time-consuming assembly, making mass production nearly impossible. Meanwhile, their enemies churned out vast numbers of reliable, good-enough vehicles that kept rolling no matter what. Despite Albert Speer's efforts to ramp up production through 1944, true transformation eluded him. The deep-rooted mindset within Germany's military-industrial complex proved too rigid to change overnight. Ideological pride and traditional adherence to perfection continued to choke innovation and mass production. The machinery of war demanded more than incremental tweaks. It needed a fundamental reimagining of priorities, yet time was a luxury Germany no longer possessed. Speer's struggle illuminated the yawning gap between what was necessary and what was politically and culturally possible, sealing Germany's fate in a war increasingly defined by overwhelming numbers rather than engineering brilliance. By this point, the German war machine was trapped in its own rigidity. The system was inflexible, and ideology ruled stronger than facts or reason. Even when confronted with undeniable evidence, the leadership clung to outdated beliefs. The truth, they saw it as inconvenient, something to be ignored or buried rather than embraced. This stubbornness wasn't just a failing, it was a fatal flaw, one that doomed Germany's ability to adapt and survive in a brutal industrial war. The very pride that fueled their confidence blinded them, turning a strategic reality into a painful secret nobody wanted to face. In May 1943, Ernst Schneider faced a harsh truth. His groundbreaking analysis was unwelcome. Instead of praise, he was punished. Transferred to the brutal Eastern Front, his reassignment was clear, a silent reprimand for daring to expose a reality the German High Command desperately wanted to ignore. It was a bitter twist for a man who had uncovered the fatal flaw in Germany's war machine, a flaw masked by pride and ideology. Schneider's exile wasn't just a personal setback. It was a symbol of a leadership blinded by stubbornness, sealing their fate by rejecting the inconvenient truths that might have changed everything. On the brutal Eastern Front, Schneider witnessed the grim reality his report had predicted. German troops, equipped with their meticulously crafted machines, faced an overwhelming tide of Soviet soldiers and endless waves of materiel. The disparity was stark, a grinding force that slowly but surely drained the strength from the Wehrmacht. Each battle saw them outnumbered, outgunned, and outpaced by sheer industrial might. This was the harsh consequence of Germany's failure to grasp the power of mass production, a lesson painfully etched in the blood-soaked fields and frozen wastelands where his calculations became lived experience. Meanwhile, the trend Schneider uncovered only gains momentum. Jeep production explodes, a relentless surge fueled by American factories working around the clock. By the time the war draws to a close, more than 640,000 of these rugged, unpretentious vehicles roll off assembly lines, outnumbering entire German armored divisions. Each Jeep is more than metal, it's a symbol of unstoppable industrial might, a testament to a strategy rooted in quantity over perfection. This tidal wave of production turns the tide of battlefields worldwide, proving Schneider's grim prophecy. In total war, sheer numbers, and the simplicity that enables them can drown even the most finely crafted machines. They serve on every front, in every Allied army. The Jeep becomes more than just a vehicle, it turns into the symbol of military mobility during the war. Towing artillery, carrying generals, evacuating the wounded, it does it all. Light, agile, and reliable, its presence is constant, a workhorse that keeps armies moving. Wherever the fight rages, from the frozen forests to scorching deserts, you'll find these rugged machines playing a vital role. Their simplicity is their strength, outpacing heavier, more complex German vehicles time and time again. The Jeep isn't just transportation, it's the lifeline that keeps the Allies advancing against all odds. In the rugged mountains of Italy and the tangled hedgerows of Normandy, the Jeep's off-road skill proved relentless. Where German vehicles struggled with their heavy weight and complexity, the Jeep thrived nimble, dependable, and easy to repair. Its simple design let Allied forces move swiftly over terrain that bogged down the enemy, turning every muddy path and rocky incline into a highway for victory. The Jeep wasn't just a vehicle, it was a secret weapon, quietly outpacing and outlasting the bigger, more complicated German machines at every turn. General Patton's lightning advance across France after D-Day was a spectacle of speed and power, but it wasn't just tanks charging forward. Behind the roaring armor and daring maneuvers was a relentless convoy of thousands of Jeeps and trucks, fueling the Army's momentum day and night in what became known as the Red Ball Express. This vast supply chain kept the front lines moving, delivering food, fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements faster than the Germans could react. While Allied vehicles pushed forward relentlessly, the German forces, still stuck with horse-drawn logistics, struggled to keep pace. In those crucial moments, the Jeep wasn't just a transport, it was a symbol of America's industrial might and the lifeblood of Patton's unstoppable push across Europe. As the Allies surged forward, powered by endless trucks and Jeeps, the German forces found themselves trapped in a bygone era. Still clinging to horse-drawn logistics, their movements grew sluggish, predictable. While American vehicles roared across the countryside, supplying front lines with fresh men and materiel, German columns remained static, unable to adapt or counter. This immobility wasn't just tactical, it was a slow unraveling of their entire war effort, exposing the harsh truth that in modern warfare, speed and supply were as deadly as firepower. The cavalry had become relics, frozen against an unstoppable, mechanized tide. But beyond its mechanical role, the Jeep served as a constant, unyielding symbol of American industrial might, right in front of German eyes. Every time a soldier spotted one zipping across the battlefield, it was a stark reminder. No matter how many vehicles they lost, the Americans just kept making more. This simple, rugged machine carried a weight far heavier than steel. It carried the relentless spirit of an endless war machine, a force that German troops couldn't hope to match. The Jeep wasn't just a vehicle. It was a daily message etched into the psyche of every enemy who saw it in action. The total numbers tell the final story. Over the course of the war, the United States produced nearly 300,000 aircraft and over 80,000 tanks. These staggering figures weren't just statistics. They were a relentless force, an unstoppable tide of machines that overwhelmed the battlefield. While Germany focused on perfection and craftsmanship, America flooded the warfront with sheer volume planes, tanks, trucks, and Jeeps rolling off assembly lines in dizzying speed. This industrial might wasn't about creating the best single weapon, it was about ensuring there was always one ready to take its place, again and again. In the calculus of total war, quantity proved to be a decisive, unyielding advantage. Beyond tanks and planes, the U.S. industrial powerhouse churned out 2.5 million trucks and light vehicles, tools of relentless logistics and mobility. Meanwhile, Germany, obsessed with engineering perfection, managed just over 46,000 armored vehicles in the same span. This stark contrast wasn't just a number game. It revealed a fundamental divide in war strategy, quantity and availability, versus quality and scarcity. The sheer volume of American vehicles flooded battlefronts, ensuring that wherever a Jeep or truck broke down, another was ready to take its place, keeping the war machine moving forward. Germany's finely crafted war machines, impressive but fewer, couldn't match this overwhelming tide. The industrial gap was not just a gap, it was a vast, unbridgeable chasm. On one side stood Germany, with its meticulous craftsmanship, refined machines, and painstakingly engineered vehicles. On the other, the United States' relentless flood of production, millions of trucks, tanks, aircraft flooding the battlefields day after day. This wasn't a fair fight of skill or courage alone. It was a clash of industrial might versus perfection's fragile hold. The Jeep, simple and abundant, symbolized a new kind of warfare, where quantity and replaceability crushed quality and scarcity, rewriting the rules of total war forever. The German war machine didn't just fail on the battlefield, it was overwhelmed from behind the scenes. The endless flood of Allied trucks, tanks, and planes wasn't just logistics, it was a tidal wave. No matter how fiercely they fought, German factories couldn't keep pace. Each broken tank, each lost vehicle was a wound that never fully healed. The sheer weight of American industrial production crushed them, grinding their finely crafted war machines into dust. Schneider's grim prediction had come true. Quality alone couldn't withstand the relentless storm of quantity. The war wasn't lost in a single battle. It was lost in an unyielding avalanche of steel and numbers. After enduring the brutal hardships of war and years as a Soviet prisoner, Ernst Schneider finally returned to a divided Germany, a nation scarred and split by conflict. But he didn't retreat from his purpose. Instead, he found a new path in the civilian auto industry, applying the very lessons he'd uncovered decades earlier. His journey was a quiet testament, a survivor carrying secret knowledge in a fractured world. Schneider's story reminds us how even those overlooked by history hold the keys to understanding profound forces that shape our fate. Ernst Schneider, holding on to that 1943 Jeep report, was more than just sentimentality. It was his silent witness to a prophecy no one else wanted to face. That document, filled with stark truths about industrial might and strategic realities, stood as a private testament to a failure not of machinery or men, but of vision. As years passed and the war's outcome unfolded exactly as he feared, Schneider's report remained a quiet reminder. Sometimes, the most dangerous battles aren't fought on the front lines, but in the halls of denial and pride. The exact Jeep Schneider examined was most likely lost to an Allied bombing raid on Kummersdorf, erased in a flash of war's fury. Yet, its impact was far from destroyed. The lessons he uncovered, the simplicity and industrial might symbolized by that humble machine, didn't just vanish with the vehicle. Schneider's analysis went on to ripple through the post-war world, influencing how nations approached military and civilian vehicle design. That Jeep, in a sense, became immortal, its legacy driving innovations like the British Land Rover and shaping the very blueprint of modern mass production and mechanized mobility. The British Land Rover, launched in 1948, wasn't just another vehicle. It was a direct heir to the Jeep's philosophy. Inspired by the Jeep's rugged simplicity, durability, and ease of repair, the Land Rover was designed to be a reliable workhorse across harsh terrains. It embraced the idea that vehicles didn't need to be overly complex or perfect to be effective. Instead, they had to be practical, easy to maintain, and produced in high numbers. This mindset helped the Land Rover become one of Britain's most successful military and civilian exports, proving that the Jeep's legacy lived on long after the war. The Volkswagen Beetle's triumph in the post-war years wasn't a coincidence. It was built on the exact same principles that Schneider had uncovered in that unassuming American Jeep: mass production, simplicity, and design for the everyman. This wasn't about crafting perfect machines. It was about making good enough machines available in vast numbers. The Beetle became an icon not just of Germany's recovery, but of a global shift in thinking about how to build and sustain technology for the masses. In a way, Schneider's analysis wasn't just a wartime revelation. It was a blueprint for the future, proving that durability and accessibility could outlast complexity and sophistication. The story of the Jeep is a powerful lesson in institutional blindness. Here was the German leadership, sitting on a mountain of clear data and thorough analysis. Yet, instead of facing the uncomfortable truth, they clung stubbornly to beliefs about their own superiority, beliefs that blinded them to reality. They had the facts laid bare, showing a devastating industrial disadvantage, but their pride and ideology refused to yield. This disconnect wasn't just stubbornness, it was a strategic failure of imagination. In the end, it was this refusal to see a simple, inconvenient truth that helped seal the fate of the Third Reich. In the end, Germany's defeat wasn't just about lost battles or dwindling resources. It was a failure of imagination, a blindness to the fact that their perfect weapons could be undone by something so simple, so crude, yet overwhelmingly numerous. They expected precision and brilliance to win the war. Instead, they faced relentless waves of good-enough machines, produced in staggering quantities, machines that refused to break down and were swiftly replaced if they did. This wasn't just engineering, it was a paradigm shift. The once confident belief in superiority cracked under the weight of sheer scale, proving that in total war, simplicity and abundance can outmatch complexity and scarcity every time. The Jeep teaches us a profound lesson in the brutal math of total war. It's not about crafting the perfect machine, but having good enough vehicles to keep the wheels turning. When you have an endless supply, your army never stops moving, never runs out of options. The perfect weapon sitting unused is no match for the simple, rugged truck rolling off assembly lines by the thousands. Availability beats scarcity every single time. This isn't just history, it's a reminder that sometimes the most effective power lies in quantity and resilience, not flawless design. And it begs a timeless question for us all. What simple, inconvenient truths might we be overlooking today, blinded by our own sophisticated beliefs? In a world dazzled by complexity and innovation, are we missing the power of straightforward solutions that, like the Jeep, could change everything? Think about it. How many times do we dismiss the basic or unpolished simply because it doesn't fit our expectations of perfection? This story challenges us to look beyond appearance and ideology, urging us to embrace pragmatism over pride. So, what truths might be quietly reshaping our future while we're busy looking elsewhere? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think.